Before the stars, before galaxies, before the universe itself, there was a profound question waiting to be answered. For centuries, philosophers have examined whether the existence of the universe points to a necessary cause beyond space and time. One question has stood above all others. Does God exist? In this exploration, we will investigate the cosmological arguments for the existence of God, examine the objections raised by atheism, and ask whether the universe is self-explanatory, or whether its existence points to a greater reality beyond itself.
This is it. This is, does God exist? For thousands of years, scientists, philosophers, and everyday thinkers, they have asked this exact same question. Does God exist? Why is there something rather than nothing? Everything we know, it begins with something that already exists. But why does anything exist at all? Is the universe the final reality? Or does existence itself point to something beyond the universe? Is the existence of God the best explanation for why anything exists?
So if your concept of a creator is someone who's all powerful and all good, and I look at disasters that afflict Earth and life on Earth, volcanoes, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, disease, pestilence, congenital birth defects. You look at this list of ways that life is made miserable on Earth by natural causes. And I just ask, how do you deal with that? So philosophers rose up and said, if there is a God, God is either not all powerful or not all good. I have no problems if, as we probe the origins of things, we bump up into the bearded man. If that shows up, we're good to go. Okay? Not a problem. There's just no evidence of it.
That's Neil deGrasse Tyson, an astrophysicist. He's given his take on the argument from evil. And even him, Neil deGrasse Tyson, he commits a category fallacy. He commits the error of comparing existence to non-existence. Neil deGrasse Tyson, he makes his conclusion based on lack of evidence. He believes that God does not exist because there is no evidence of his existence. And he commits the error of concluding that something does not exist because there is no evidence. But absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. A person can be absent in class, yet present at home. So even the astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson has fallen in the trap of category fallacy, comparing something to nothing. The most commonly discussed objections against the existence of God, they are the following: the argument from evil, divine hiddenness, lack of evidence, naturalistic explanations, infinite regress. These are just a few arguments used by atheists and those that reject the existence of God. The argument from evil. It is said to be from the ancient Greek philosopher Epicurus. The argument from evil, it did not come from Epicurus. And Epicurus, he was not an atheist. And the argument from evil is not found in any of his writings. It is said that the earliest source for the argument from evil is from the Christian writer Lactantius. Lactantius lived in the 4th century AD, or he supposedly lived in the 4th century AD. But the writings of Lactantius, they are dated to the medieval time period, while Lactantius lived during the 4th century AD. And this makes the writings of Lactantius unreliable. And it shows that the argument from evil, being an atheistic argument, it was invented in the 1800s AD by the Caucasian. And atheism, it is not historical, it is modern. The argument from evil, it is supposed to be the death blow to God. The argument from evil is stated in the following format. There are 4 premises. The first premise is God is all-powerful, omnipotent. God has the power to eliminate all evil and suffering. The second premise is God is all-knowing, omniscient. God knows that evil exists and knows how to eliminate it. The third premise, God is perfectly good, omnibenevolent. God will want to eliminate evil and suffering. The fourth premise, evil and suffering exist. The atheist, he makes the conclusion, therefore, a God who possesses all 3 of these attributes simultaneously cannot exist. But the argument from evil, it is a nonsense argument. The premise, evil exists. This is a false premise. It speaks as though evil is an ontological being, as if evil fulfills the condition of existing. The premise speaks as if evil has the properties of being. But evil is not a being. It has no ontology. So how does it exist? Evil is a predicate that describes its subject. Evil does not exist as an ontological being. If there is evil, then something must first exist to be categorized as evil. If nothing exists, then there cannot be any evil. The premise, evil exists. It is false by analysis. It is a category fallacy. Evil is not a being. It is a predicate that describes an attribute or quality of its subject. When evil is used as a noun, it becomes an abstraction, and all abstractions do not exist in the real world. If we maintain that evil exists, when in actuality evil does not exist as an ontological being, then the argument from evil is a comparison of existence to non-existence. And this is a comparison of something to nothing. Existence cannot be compared to non-existence because there is nothing to compare existence to. This is a classic case of a comparison of something to nothing. Within the argument from evil, it says there is moral evil and natural evil. Since man is categorized as morally evil, then man must exist to be categorized as such. The existence of man, it does not conflict in any way the existence of God. If there is natural evil, then that which is a part of nature, it must first exist to be categorized as natural evil. An earthquake, it is considered a natural evil. In order for there to be an earthquake, there must first exist an earth. Otherwise, there cannot be any quake in the earth. The existence of the earth, it does not conflict in any way the existence of God. A tidal wave that causes destruction to property, it is categorized as a natural evil. In order for there to be a tidal wave, there must exist water. If water does not exist, then there cannot be any tidal wave. The existence of water, it does not conflict in any way the existence of God. A hurricane or tornado that causes destruction to property, it is considered a natural evil. In order for there to be a hurricane or tornado, there must exist air or wind. If air does not exist, then there cannot be any hurricane or tornado. The existence of air, it does not conflict in any way the existence of God. Disease, this is considered a natural evil. In order for there to be an infectious disease, there must exist bacteria, parasites, and viruses. If bacteria, parasites, and viruses do not exist, then there cannot be any infectious disease. The existence of bacteria, parasites, and viruses, these do not conflict in any way the existence of God. If disease is defined as an abnormal condition that impairs physiological functioning, then something must exist to have such disease. If nothing exists, then there cannot be any disease. Man must exist to have such a disease. Other living organisms must exist to have such disease. The existence of man and other living organisms, they do not conflict in any way the existence of God. The proposition, the premise, evil exists. It is a false premise, and it is false by analysis. Evil, being a predicate that describes an attribute of its subject, evil itself does not exist, but it merely points to something that has real existence. Adding good to the argument from evil, Now we can press on with our critique of the argument from evil, the supposed death blow to God. The argument, when strictly examined, it is outright ridiculous. It is a nonsense argument. Whenever we speak of the existence of evil, we do not prevent the existence of good. The existence of good, like evil, it does not itself exist, but points to something that has real existence. The existence of good, just like evil, it can be divided into two categories. Categories of moral good and natural good. The fact that good does exist, and that it points to something that has real existence, thus describing a quality or attribute of its subject, this presents insoluble problems for the argument from evil. The argument from evil, it is incoherent. In the argument from evil, it is said that there is moral evil and natural evil. However, this is not altogether true. There is not only moral evil and natural evil, there is also moral good and natural good. Here is where the dilemma lies. But if man is morally evil, then how do we explain the moral good that man does? But if man is morally good, then how do we explain the moral evil that man does? The atheist, he is caught in this dilemma, and the same thing applies to natural evil. The same earth that produces an earthquake, it also produces necessary elements for sustenance of life. The same air that causes a hurricane, it also sustains life. The same water that produces a tidal wave or tsunami, it also sustains life. The same virus, parasites, and bacteria that causes sickness and disease, they are also vital for human survival and health, and they balance ecosystems and provide tools for medicinal and genetic research. The very thing that is said to be evil, we find good within it. This is the dilemma that the atheist and any proponent of the argument of evil, they are faced with this dilemma. Evil is the corruption of good, and evil, it requires the existence of good. But good, it does not require the existence of evil. Evil requires a prior knowledge of good. Therefore, good precedes evil in existence. The argument from evil, it is a failed argument. It is a nonsense argument, and it commits the fallacy of reification.
If you're going to postulate a God as a first cause, you've then got a really big problem explaining where the God came from.
I'm sure you can tell me where God came from.
What created God?
Where did God come from?
What created
Good
God?
question. Who created God?
The infinite regress argument, it claims that there can be an infinite chain of effects that regress infinitely into the past and does not require a cause for its existence. The argument, it is formulated this way. The first premise, every event has a cause. Second premise, every cause is itself caused by a prior cause. Third premise, therefore, there is an infinite regress of causes. Fourth premise. Therefore, a first cause is unnecessary. Bertrand Russell, Richard Dawkins, and Christopher Hitchens, these are just a few people that champion the belief in an infinite regress. The premise, therefore, there is an infinite regress of causes. This premise is false by analysis, and it cannot happen. An infinite regress of effects or causes, it is a regress into the past. The problem is the past does not exist, and this makes the infinite regress a regression into nothing. The chain of contingent beings, it cannot regress into the future because that is a contradiction, and the future, it does not exist yet. Whatever exists, it must exist in the present. It must be now, in the now. The atheist, he is fond of asking the question, if God created the universe, then who created God? This question, it implies an infinite regress of contingent beings, but an infinite regress of contingent beings cannot happen because the infinite regress, it is a regression into the past, and the past does not exist. And this makes it thoroughly impossible for anything to regress into the past. If there is a regression of anything, then that regression, it must occur in the present, in the now. That's the infinite regress argument. This is another failed argument that cannot happen. The infinite regress argument, it commits the fallacy of reification because the argument, it gives existence to the past. In conclusion, God does exist. There must, of necessity, exist a self-existent, eternal being that we call God.